Chapter 56. Learning More. After finishing his intense battle with Nate, his hour using the VR capsule was up and Quinn was no longer able to participate in any more matches. Although he had lost his match, he felt satisfied. He had learned a lot during his battle with Nate. His attacks, including his blood swipe, were not strong enough to do any damage to Nate while he using his metal ability. However, his hammer strike skill was. Hammer strike didn't increase his strength, but now Quinn had a good idea what it did do. It was an attack that focused on the inside, an internal attack, the perfect counter to those with abilities who hardened or transformed their bodies. Quinn couldn't wait to find out what the other tutorials the blonde man had in store for him, but he had no idea how to unlock them. The blonde man had simply said when he was ready, they would unlock for him. There were two things this meant. One might be when Quinn's stats were high enough to complete the fighting skills requirements, or when Quinn was a high enough level. The second lesson the fight had taught him was how important stamina was. The flash step was an incredible skill that allowed him to avoid a strike in an instant, but if he used it more than twice, then he would be done for, and if he was out in the sun, he wasn't even sure he would be able to use the skill at all. This made Quinn think long and hard about what to put his stat points into in the future. Perhaps going for an agility or strength-based character wasn't the best thing after all. With that in mind, Quinn had set up an important meeting with Layla today. There was one thing he needed to learn about more than anything, especially if he wanted to get stronger in the future. It was a Sunday, so Quinn still had the rest of the day off, before having to go back to the standard military lessons for the week. The sun was out bright and early, and Quinn was standing outside the school gates patiently waiting for Layla. Even though it was the weekend, Quinn still wore his school uniform, for he didn't have any other clothes, other than what was provided to him, and he had long grown out of his old school uniform. "This damn sun," Quinn said while his body was covered in sweat. All current stats have been half-leveled. Ever since he had evolved from a human into a halfling, the sun seemed to bother him even more. He was covered in sweat even though it wasn't that hot, and he was starting to have ringing headaches if he stayed outside too long. Finally, after waiting a while, Layla had arrived. She was wearing a beautiful red dress that showed off her long legs nicely along with her short hair. She still carried her bow and had her quiver by her side, and on her back was a fairly large bag. "You ready?" Layla asked, smiling. Quinn looked at the large bag on her back. It must have been heavy, he thought. "Do you want me to carry that for you?" Quinn asked. Although with his stats half-leveled and his strength draining from his body, he was hoping she would say no. "It's okay, the bag is lighter than you think. I'm using my ability to make it lighter," Layla replied. Quinn really wasn't sure if she was being truthful or not, and didn't really know what to do in these types of situations. Were you meant to insist and be pushy? Or be a gentleman-like and offer a hand? Or listen to the girl? If she said she could do it, then she could do it. In the end, Quinn didn't want to think too hard about it and decided to just let Layla carry on holding the heavy bag. If she wanted him to really carry the bag, then she should just ask him. The two of them walked out of the school's premise and carried on walking until they eventually reached a nice quiet park. There were some students outside messing around playing with their abilities, and at the same time there was some military personnel relaxing on the benches. "Peaceful, isn't it?" Layla said. "Yeah, it's kind of nice." Then a thought came into his head. Of all the news he had heard on TV, about what life was like during the war, how it could start up again any second, and finally the death of his parents. But who knows how long it will last? That's why I need to keep getting stronger. Layla placed the heavy bag on the ground, and it seemed like it was a weight off her shoulders. Even if she was using her ability, it would be tiring for someone to keep it up on the whole walk here. That's when Layla started to empty out all the contents in her bag. There were all sorts of things inside. There were several items of thick clothing, such as hats, scarves, sunglasses, and most of it seemed to be black in color. Then she continued to pull out even more stuff. lotions and lotions of sun cream, and finally she pulled out an umbrella. Novelb 1N. Did it cost a lot? Quinn asked, worried after seeing how much she had bought. Don't worry about it. My family sent me the credits and I used up what the academy gave me. Layla replied, besides I got it all from the marketplace, so it was dirt cheap. The marketplace was an online store that was used all around the world. It sold your everyday items such as food, clothes, utilities and other things. With the use of teleporters, your items were able to be shipped to you in almost an instant. As long as you could afford one of these, if not you would have to go to a collection point. And the military school had one of these collection points for students to use. But other than just your everyday items, the marketplace was also used by people to sell and buy beast weapons, skill books, ability books and all sorts of things that would be beneficial to you in battles. However, to access this part of the marketplace you would either need military personal ID, which all students got a temporary one to use during their time there, or if you were a traveler. Travelers were people who didn't work for the military but worked for a private company and often went into portals to explore different worlds. So what do you want to try first? Layla said, holding the sun cream in her hand. ***.